You've got ideas, you've got ambition, you've got no time, or so you think. I'm Marissa Lonick, and I help busy moms with big dreams and no time. Join me each week as I dive into time management strategies, goal setting and achieving framework, and inspiring guests who are juggling mom life, work life, fill in the blank life. Dreams don't work unless you do, and just because you're a mom doesn't mean you can't still make it happen, whatever it means to you. Welcome to the Mama Work It podcast. Hey, mamas. Welcome back to another awesome episode of the Mama Work It podcast. So glad you're here. If you are new and you haven't listened to our show before, or you're not sure what Mama Work It even is, we are here to support women in the juggle of mom life, work life, wife life, fill in the blank life. And I am your host, Marissa Lonick, working mama of 4 kiddos. I'm so excited this week to introduce you to Lori Sugarman-Li. She is a speaker, author, and coach, and she is on a mission to support families through powerful conversations on how they can care for one another and the space they share. When a disability insurance agent told Lori her stay-at-home mom role had, quote, no value on his algorithm, she fused her career in strategic marketing with her decade devoted to full-time care of her family and community to tackle a much overdue rebrand of the outdated perceptions and definitions related to domestic labor and unpaid work. Lori specializes in speaking to kids about the impact of their care contributions to their family wellness with her award-winning children's book, Our Home. She has also educated and empowered employee groups at Amazon UK, Trinity Health, GoodRx, and others with systems and language that lead to equitable and efficient home and work life. I am so excited for this conversation. Lori, thank you so much for being here and for your incredible book. I love it.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for that super kind introduction.
Yeah, you got it. Well, let's just get started by diving right in to get to know you a little bit better. So tell us more about you, your journey as a working mom, that situation, and kind of how this all came to be.
Yeah, thanks. You did such a fabulous job of outlining it. I'll take you back to when I was a working not yet mom. So I had a 15-year career as a marketing strategist and working for Four Seasons hotels and resorts when I had my first baby. And what was really a fabulous job pre-kids, a lot of travel, international opportunities, became a little bit complicated. And I should also say I had my first baby in Canada, which is a 1-year maternity leave. A lot about that is really fantastic. And a lot about that makes it somewhat tricky. You know, you really fall deep into this caregiving role, and returning back to the workplace can feel overwhelming. And at the time, my husband and I were in a position to have a 1-income family. And we sort of said, of course, without knowing really what it meant, you know, look, why don't you make the money and I'll do everything else, right? As so many women do before they really know what that means. So I shifted all of my passions and my discipline and my ambition from the economy of commerce into the economy of care. And I think I was really surprised by how much I loved being full-time in care of my family, in care of my community. I mean, I was super involved in raise my hand for everything that was available in terms of the Parents Association and charitable boards and other contribution opportunities. And I had a second son 2 years later. And then we were offered an opportunity as a family to move to London for an opportunity for my husband's job. And of course, I orchestrated the whole international move and reestablished our family in our new community. And, you know, this is a lot of what we know now as unpaid work, right? The invisible work that women do tend to carry so much of. But again, I was loving it. And we had a second international opportunity back to the US. We settled in Chicago, and my husband said to me, listen, we don't really have a safety net here. We don't have any family or friends yet. If something were to happen to me, he said, I would take a leave and head up the family. And so we should get you disability insurance in case that happens. And so I thought, okay, terrific. I filled in all the forms, did all the health exams and everything, the rigmarole that you need to do, only for the, as you said, for the disability insurance salesman to say to me, I don't understand why you need this. You're just a housewife. If something happens, right? Okay, let's take a moment for like the smoke coming out of my
let's
right.
Let that impact drive.
The smoke really came out of my ears like I was on fire to realize, oh my gosh, this gentleman really has no idea what I and all other women, whether we work outside the home or not, do in a day in service of our families. And he actually said to me, because you don't receive a salary, there would be no loss if something were to happen to you. And it was such an awareness of the devaluing of unpaid work and the focus on efforts that generate revenue as being the ones that really drive our society, and just this total lack of awareness that really this unpaid labor is what makes all other work possible, right? We are raising the next generation of laborers. And I couldn't unhear what this guy said to me, and I couldn't not do anything about it. And so immediately I was set on a mission to make this work of home and family, this often invisible and always unpaid work, more visible, valued, and also more equitably shared, because that is a bridge to value as well. And so I studied and started writing a lot. The first thing I did actually was create a LinkedIn profile for myself as a quote unquote stay-at-home mom, which is like such a questionable title to begin with, right? But I challenged myself to really articulate, what have I contributed in this role? What has been the work, the effort, all that I have achieved, how I have grown and developed, and be able to articulate this to someone who potentially would be my hiring manager when I did decide to return to work. And then I started writing articles and putting those on LinkedIn, just really challenging the societal definitions and expectations around unpaid labor. And I got such a response from mostly my female colleagues and connections in that environment. Some men have been terribly, incredibly supportive as well. But it really started a conversation around, for all women, how can we move forward and get away from these sort of outdated societal definitions and expectations that are weighing women down and impacting our wellness. And then finally, when I saw all my colleagues in this work sort of impacting corporate policy, impacting government policy, again, I was still quote unquote a stay-at-home mom. And I thought, well, how can I be a part of this societal movement? And I thought, well, I can talk to kids. And it was this realization that if we seek to change adult behavior, there is a huge opportunity to show our children a better way. And so I dreamed up Our Home, the Love, Work, and Heart of Family, to be this conversation starter for families about the power of caring for one another, how beautiful this work is, and at its heart, to remove gendered notions from the work of home and care, to create an equitable future for kids.
Wow. Thank you. Not just for sharing that, but for doing the work you do. That is really incredible and impactful and so needed.
Thank you. It's been hugely meaningful. It really took me by surprise. And, my kids will say to me, they're sort of in awe of the fact that I have taken this unpaid stage and created it into, new paid work, which really I had not anticipated and, couldn't have understood before I got into it. I mean, writing a book is something wild. I didn't know anything about the publishing industry, and that's probably for the best when I started out, because it's really a fascinating journey. But I'm so grateful that I made it, and I did with the support of my two kids, who I really see are going to be involved in a future of partnerships that is more founded in equity.
Beautiful. Yeah. Well, Lori, I know we've only got 30 minutes for this show, but I do want to ask this very loaded question. What do you think is like the secret sauce to creating this well-oiled machine in the home?
So first of all, let's acknowledge it's a heavy load. Last year, the Surgeon General of the US reported that most days, 48% of parents say that their stress is completely overwhelming them. And the opportunity is to acknowledge that we can't control all the sources of this stress, but we can control the vibe and flow of our own family. And when I coach families on how to do this, is really three big buckets. It's communication, the way we speak to one another about this beautiful work, the systems that we put into place to help us manage it, and then the boundaries that we create to protect our wellness as a family from the stress. And really, the opportunity is to begin to treat your family like an organization and to behave like a team, and to learn how to position, in a partnership, for example, to position you and your partner against the daily stresses versus letting the stresses come between the two of you. And a system that I use very frequently in coaching my families is the Fair Play system, which was the brainchild of Eve Rodsky, the amazing Rodsky. And it's really about whole task ownership. But what we see in the home and in the community is that women carry 75% of the load of the work, right? And that is the work that can be measured. So the executional elements, it doesn't even count the mental and the emotional load. And this work, which the insurance agent told me had no value, actually is measured at $10.9 trillion annually. And I should clarify that that was a metric at minimum wage, which is sort of like not even fair to begin with. But if we shift to a model where we as a family divide tasks and own them fully, such that the mental and emotional load are inextricably linked with the executional work, we ultimately see less nagging, less stress, less resentment, less duplication of effort, less forgetfulness, and more time for other pursuits. Because what happens is that this work of home and care ends up taking less time because we're doing it more efficiently, more effectively. We're communicating better about it. And so we have more time for what we call the things that make us whole, right? The things that we are outside of a parent, a partner, and a professional.
Yes, I love the combination of the mental, emotional labor with the physical execution of the task, because I think most times when people offer to help, they think automatically the physical execution of the task, but
that's it.
Giving the directions, giving the instructions, talking about all the little nuances of like, this kid gets ice in his water bottle and this kid doesn't, like it is work in itself, right?
Yes. Oh, yes. Yep. And that's the magic. It's, and I know we were going to talk about language, but you just said something really important, which is, this concept of asking for help, right? And so this is one of the language shifts that I really encourage, especially women, but families as a whole to make, because when women ask for help, or when people expect and wait for women to ask for help, the implication is that we are the owners of this work. Right. And the rest of the family is sort of waiting in the wings for our direction, for us to make the lists, for our reminders, et cetera. And this is impacting women's wellness, right? We see 80% of autoimmune diseases diagnosed in women, twice the instances of stress and anxiety disorders. And it's because of this load that we carry. And as you said, the mental and the emotional, which is the invisible, right, of this work. And it doesn't end. It's like this ticker tape that's constantly going through our heads. And as you articulated, when we have a partner who says, I'll do the groceries, give me the list, right? That is not nearly as impactful to the wellness of a family as a partner who can say, I'm going to do the groceries. I know everybody's preferences. I know the schedule for this week and when we need quick dinners and when we have time to cook. I got this. I'll be back in an hour.
Such a difference. Like
Such
night and day difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Because there are so many components that is not just the grocery shopping, right? There's the meal planning,
That's
there's
it.
the list making, there's, if you're on a budget, shopping the sales. I mean, there's so many
Yes.
things.
Yeah. It's really all about becoming a noticer, building that muscle, and again, understanding that this is really about family wellness and also about what you want to model for your kids. One of the things that I coach my families to do is uh, the starting point is really to understand your values, like what's important to you, what's not, and to recognize that you and your family can tell your story and flow through life however you want. The opportunity is to release the definitions that society has imposed, release any expectations that you think anyone has, sit down with one another. And I suggest that even little kids can be so thoughtful as participants in this conversation about what's really important to us. When do we feel safe? When do we feel comfortable? When do we thrive? When do we feel connected to one another? And what are the things that stress us out? Like, let's talk about what that sweet spot is for our family. And then from there, you understand, okay, so these are the tasks that will get us to those great places. And these are the standards against which we want to execute these tasks, right? What are the things that are really, really important for us to spend time and work hard on? What are the things we actually don't care about that we maybe are doing out of obligation or because we think someone else that expects it of us? And so having these kind of conversations as a family and regrouping them frequently can become like your North Star. And whenever you feel stuck or you feel slipping, you go back to, well, did we say that that was a value for us? Did we say that that was important to us? And then that sets you back on your path.
I love that. It kind of reminds me when I talk about time management with clients, like not everything can be a priority, right?
Yes,
Not everything
exactly.
can be a value.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have like a question you advise your clients to ask themselves, or like a way where they can say, this is necessary, this isn't?
It's so interesting because, even within a family, we're all wired so differently, right? And so
Right.
the sitting together and connecting, like, because we're all rushing through life, right? And trying to just check all the boxes and get everywhere that we need to get. And if we sit down at a time that is, calm and we're not stressed about anything and we're not hungry and we're not tired, and maybe we bring like some kind of special snack or treat or whatever, and we say, guys, we have an opportunity here. We can be whoever we want to be in this world. We can release the things that are causing us stress and anxiety, and we can feel more connected in this work, which at its highest level feels overwhelming, but at its heart is really the work of gratitude for all that we have and for those with whom we share a space. And again, getting back to the wiring, it's really meaningful to have a safe space to talk about and express, like, well, I find these things difficult, or I find it really hard to remember that I have to do that, or I feel like I need a better system of support. I was listening to one of your episodes where you talk about your command center. And how impactful that has been to sort of keeping everybody focused and reminding on like what your goals are as a family. And I think that's a fantastic way, having something visual. Some families thrive when they work. I think the concept is like a body double or a shadow, right? When someone, and I had this with my own dad when I was growing up. My dad sometimes found it tricky to approach like really big tasks, and he would always loop me in because he knew that if I was sort of shadowing him, I would keep him on track. And so opportunities to have these really candid and honest and safe discussions as a family about how you want to be, about what feels maybe like tricky about getting there and how you can support one another, is really the most beautiful starting point.
Yes, love that. So let's go back to the language piece, like you said, and the fact that we don't want to necessarily be asking for help, let's say as the moms at home. How do we get what we need without asking for it?
So I have a lot of great ideas for shifts in language. The first thing that I think is really important is to understand a lot of these terms that are coming into the vernacular now and start to talk about mental load, invisible work, positioning this as unpaid labor, but also the work of our humanity, and just doing this work a little bit more loudly. I think so often women who carry this load sort of do it in the shadows, right? Like we're doing it silently and magically when kids are asleep or kids are at school or late at night or early in the morning before we go to work. And so start making it in general more visible, talking about what you're doing and what the impact of it is. And then also being really conscious of breaking away from gendered stereotypes about this work. And the fact that not all hours of work around the home are created equal, right? Like understanding that owning something like the morning rush, which is like a daily grind at a really stressful time, even though it might take an hour, isn't quite the same as an hour of mowing the lawn, right? And so having these kinds of conversations as a family. And then also recognizing that we've gotten to a point now that we speak to young girls and tell them they can be anything. Girls can code, girls can fly, girls can go to space, girls can be president, anything. But what are we saying to young boys about how they can be a part of something that they may not have felt connected to before because, again, of societal language definitions and expectations? What are we talking to boys about their role in care? And then specifically within your household, we talked about help and making lists and how that's not really a sustainable model. I also don't love this word chore. I don't know if we can change the word. It literally is defined as dreaded, repetitive, unappealing work.
Oh, no.
But what we can do as a family is change the energy that we bring to this work, right? This is the work of nourishing and nurturing and protecting our investments, and helping kids understand that is really, really meaningful. And then finally, the word thank you. I think there's a real opportunity to evolve away from the notion of thank you, which is basically like, oh, you did me a favor, right? It connects again to this help ownership by women. And when your kids or your partner contribute in a meaningful way, really acknowledge them for the impact that they made. Oh, wow, like you did that so quickly, or you did that so well, or I didn't even remember teaching you that. That's amazing. Or, how did you feel to complete that? Or what was tricky about it? Or, oh, wow, you really, I was going to have to do that, and you saved me a half an hour, and let me tell you what I did with that half an hour. So taking it beyond a simple thank you and more to the impact that effort had on the wellness of the family. Finally, if I can quickly say,
yes,
I suggest to families that they not make the work of home and care transactional by connecting it directly to allowance. I think allowance is a really fantastic tool for financial literacy. I think it's a wonderful way of empowering kids to learn how to spend wisely and save thoughtfully and allocate for charity and even learn to invest. But if you connect the giving of money to the completion of household tasks without first instilling the inherent value, which again is as an expression of gratitude for those with whom we share our space, then you'll have missed a critical step.
All right. Yeah. I mean, it can definitely be a motivator, but it's not like an intrinsic motivator, right? It's an extrinsic one. And we know that can fade. So,
and at the end of the day, listen, this is not paid work. Right. And so I think it's terrific to let kids have experience with money. They should still have access to money and learn all about it. But I love the notion that we keep the work of home and care focused on care, on empowerment, on feeling trusted, on growing. And by the way, there's research to show that children as young as 3 being involved in the work of home have incredible benefits, not only to their self-esteem, their ability to approach, communicate about, and complete tasks, and to their thriving academically and within social relationships. So there are so many benefits to involving your kids in this work and not trying to protect them from it.
Yes, I've heard this too. And I also feel like it makes them feel like a valued family member when they're
That's
involved in
absolutely
the common goals that we're all working toward, you know?
exactly it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know you talk to kids a lot. Your book is a children's book. How do you suggest we teach our kids to see the scope of unpaid work that goes into running a home? I mean, I know even if we're modeling this, that's one way, kind of like you mentioned before, like don't wait until nap time or bedtime to do all these tasks. Like do it when they're seeing you do it. But what other ways can we teach them about it?
So, what I have found to be super meaningful is to speak to kids more about the why behind all of the work. I think very often we have a chore chart or a to do list. And so from there, we can garner a sense of the scope of what we have to tackle. But it's so much more than just a list, right? There are reasons for all of these things that we do, right? And they so often connect to our own wellness, right? Of our body, of our space, the protection of our investments like our home and our car. And a couple of examples I really love to share. I have a 14-year-old son. And if I were to say to him, okay, you have to change your sheets, he's going to be likely annoyed, right? It's such a dreaded task, that fitted sheet especially. But if I sit down and explain to him, hey, buddy, I'm not sure if you knew, but there's a direct correlation between sleeping on a clean pillowcase and having clear skin. Suddenly, this is meaningful to him. It's not something I'm asking him to do as a favor to me. It's something that I am offering him as an entree into his own well-being. And I want to empower him with that knowledge so that he can, take this and become independent someday. And when he goes off to college, understand, oh yeah, I'm going to change my sheets once a week. And by the way, my kids are old enough that I'm starting to talk to them about someday welcoming other people into their space and how to make it safe and inviting for them. And clean sheets are definitely a part of that, right? And so depending on how old your kids are, you're going to have a different type of conversation. If you're thinking about little kids, very often we'll engage kids in like a clean out of the playroom or whatever. Okay, like it's time to get rid of the things you're not using. And then all of a sudden the things that haven't been touched in 2 years are like the favorites again, right?
Yes.
Because it feels like such a loss to them. But if you take the time to explain the impact of donating these things and where the donation is going and what that means for other children, and even take the kids with you to make that donation, suddenly it has such a different patina, right? It's a giving instead of a losing. And so just the context, my last example is if you have a well-used and loved vehicle, right, that does a lot of carpools and a lot of running around, you're likely having a lot of snacks in the car. There's banana peels and granola bar bits and all kinds of stuff all over the place. If you're going to shout at your kids, this car is such a mess, it's not really going to resonate with them. Like, it is what it is. But if you teach your kids about how vehicles hold value and the impact of keeping the car clean to the someday opportunity to either trade it in or sell it, and how much more money you may be able to get for the car if you do keep it well, and what the impact of that money will be to your family, then the wheels start turning, right? They have a stake in it. They can do something really magical and meaningful for their family, and they understand what that is versus just, pick this up off the floor of the car. So the more you can explain, why do we do all this stuff? And tie and correlate it directly back to the kid's own wellness, then it's really, really a meaningful way to get them engaged.
I love that. The car example hits home for sure. I have one that came up as you were talking. I'm curious if I can ask you about it. So we recently started having our kids fold and put away their own laundry.
Woohoo!
Oh my gosh, we have so much laundry in this house, and it is
yes.
one of my least favorite tasks here. Mm-hmm. And so we've gotten their inclusion in this big task that we have each week, multiple times per week. And, Some kids are folding really nicely and putting things away all Marie Kondo style in their drawers, and others could care less. And what would you suggest the buy-in there be? I've tried, like, you won't be able to find what you're looking for. I've tried, your clothes are going to be wrinkled. What do you think?
Yeah. So laundry, I think, is such a great one. And I have one of each of those kids in my house too. My younger one, who's 12, actually does a lot of the laundry in our house because it's something that connects to his skill set, right? For my other kid, like it doesn't as much. But you build these muscles gradually. You start small. I started with like the cleaning rags, so like a little square, fold this way, fold that way, done. And I also invite my kids into the laundry room with me so that they can like sort the socks or spray the stains or whatever it is, to start getting them to understand, like, what's this all about? Like, it's not just a pile that ends up on my bed that I groan about, but actually, first of all, we have laundry because we have a beautiful life. We have stains because we went for ice cream and it dripped, or we have, grassy knees because we played outside every day. And like, let me show you how to get your soccer uniform clean so that it's ready for the big game. Let me show you how I turn it inside out because it protects the numbers and the letters on the back from rubbing against other things. And so they start to take more of an interest in it. And absolutely not every kid is wired in the same way. And this is not about perfection. It's awesome if every kid does it to the degree that they are able, right? But I promise you, the muscle really does build if you keep at it and keep at it and keep at it. And laundry is also like a great one for kids that need that body double. And you can always do it with them until they're ready to do it on their own.
Yes, we often do. All right, good. Thank you. Thank you for that. All right, Lori, we're just about at the time in our show where we're just going to totally flip the script and move into our lightning round where we ask you some fun, random, personal questions. Are you ready to go?
I'm so ready.
All right, let's do it. What is your go-to, like, get it done song?
So I am Gen X to the core, and the music of 80s injects me with joy and nostalgia and a youthful energy like no other. So it's always going to be 80s music for me.
Yes, 80s music was pretty awesome. Yeah, I can understand. What's your guilty pleasure TV show?
So I lived in London, as I mentioned, for 4 years, and I just really love all things British. And my favorite show is The Great British Bake Off. I love it so much. I love hearing all of the accents from all over the UK. And I love the nostalgic bakes that they do that I used to eat when I was there. It's such a great show. I'm also a passionate baker, so I think that's why I love it as well.
Oh, love that. Yeah, I like to bake too. And the kids and I love those baking shows. We haven't gotten into that one, but we did Is It Cake, if you've seen that on Netflix.
For sure. Yeah.
And we did the one that was about like all the Dr. Seuss inspired cakes. That was really fun.
Oh, I didn't see that one. I'm going to have to find that.
Yes. Yeah. And then they started asking for all these very intricate flavors of desserts. Like, I would like a chocolate ganache cream pie. Like, and I was like, whoa, the standards have gotten higher here.
Yeah, my kids are really into all the YouTube recipes. That's a lot of fun to get them into the kitchen too. That's a great one for kids.
Yeah. So far, they've just put in their requests. They have not. They have not taken to baking.
Any minute now. You know what I did with my younger one is for his birthday one year, he actually asked for a waffle maker. Nice. And so now he has like his own kitchen tools. And this year he's getting a rice cooker, which was his wish. So,
okay. You might have a culinary genius you're raising over there. All right. Last question. Speaking of food, what if you could only eat one food for the rest of your life? What would it be? Calories don't count.
So this goes back to nostalgia as well, but my very favorite, always love it, magical food is a peanut butter and banana sandwich. And
Yum.
I like it on like a seedy, grainy whole grain bread. I feel like it has every food group, every nutrient. It's so satisfying, and it takes me back to my childhood when we were allowed to have peanut butter at school. I had it almost every single day of my scholastic career, and I still love it today.
Yes, that is a good one. Making me want to make one of those after this show.
Let me know.
All right, Lori. Well, before we wrap up, tell our listeners where they can find you, learn more about you, where they can get the book.
Thank you. I would love that. So I'm on LinkedIn as Lori Sugarman-Li, and I'm on Instagram at Our Home, Our Pride. And when I talk about pride, it's not a pride in perfection, but it's a pride in being true to your own family and your own space. And my book, Our Home, The Love, Work of and Heart of Family, is available everywhere that books are sold.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Lori. I learned a ton. I love this book, and I just so appreciate you being here and sharing all your insight with the Mama Work It community.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to connect with your community. I'm really grateful.
You've been listening to the Mama Work It podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode and would love if you could take a quick minute to leave me a review on whichever platform you're listening from, and maybe even send a note to a fellow mama friend recommending it. Reviews and recs help this podcast grow and reach more like-minded, awesome moms. And if you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click that button so we can stay in touch, girl. By the way, if you haven't checked out the Mama Work It website, please do. There are lots of free resources and great articles there that can help you with the juggle of work life, mom life, wife life, fill in the blank life. So head on over. Thanks again for being part of the tribe. I'll see you soon, but in the meantime, keep on working it, mama.